Hey, you want to see some cool X-Men comics? Let's take a look. Okay, what I have here is the Uncanny X-Men number 150 from 1981. The artist was Dave Cockrum, and the writer was Chris Claremont. I also have the New Mutants number 16 from 1984. The artist was Tom Mandrake, and the writer was again Chris Claremont. So these are both two really cool X-Men books from a really cool era of X-Men. It's Chris Claremont, right? And Chris Claremont, I've talked about it before on this channel, was one of the most influential writers of all time, and his X-Men run that he did for like decades, I think is super important to comics, and it's just such an amazing run altogether. So having a couple books from his run of X-Men is really great. And he didn't just do the main X-Men titles. He also did a lot of the spin-offs, and one of them was the New Mutants. So both of these books are keys. They're kind of minor keys, but I still think they're pretty cool. This is the origin of Magneto, specifically the first time a reference is made to having Jewish ancestry and his childhood spent in Auschwitz. So that's a really important part of this character's history and his origin, and this is where we first get the idea of that. And that was shown in the live action X-Men movies. And I think that was a really, those are some really powerful scenes. And it also makes you understand, he's a villain, right? So you don't really ever understand why a villain does what they do, but you can see a little bit more where he's coming from and the way he felt because of everything that happened in his past. And then this right here is the first appearance of James Proudstar, who is the second Thunderbird and later becomes Warpath. And then it's also the first team appearance of the Hellions, led by Emma Frost. So that's Roulette, Empath, Jetstream, Tarot, Thunderbird, and Cat's Eye. So this is an interesting issue. The New Mutants were under Charles Xavier, of course, and they were around when I believe the X-Men were off-world, and I think Charles Xavier at the time believed them to be dead. And he starts a new team of X-Men at a younger age, but instead calls them the New Mutants. And of course, he wants to be much more careful with the things they get involved with. And they end up getting taken by Emma Frost, and she has her own team of young mutants called the Hellions. And they kind of, as you can see from this cover, are kind of going at it in this issue, which is really cool. You got Sunspot there and everything, and Cannonball, and just some really cool stuff going on the cover here. So yeah, this is a really cool book as well. And I just can't get enough of this Chris Claremont run of X-Men, so I'm going to try to collect as much of it as I possibly can. And I just think that these are two really, really cool books to have in my collection from the X-Men.